Hello my friends, welcome to the new Magister Klaus video about invoking demons. I'm here again with another, I would not say spirit, but I would say even some kind of energy current or a symbol of our infernal workings. As you can see, I am going to speak about a very specific symbol, phenomenon, something that many of you have been asking a long time ago, and I'm going to speak about Baphomet, or Baphomet, if we can say it in French. It took me again a little bit time to do this video, because for Baphomet or Baphomet I had to find a lot of sources. Mostly I was searching in books about him. There are a lot of sources, and also I did my own foundings and invocations with Baphomet. So here I am, and we can start. So what does Baphomet represent in left-hand path, or let's say even occultism? To speak about Baphomet, we can say that this entity or symbol appears firstly in medieval times, mostly from the early 14th century. So we are speaking maybe late 13th, early 14th century, and the name Baphomet is closely related to the old medieval time of medieval knights, knights of Templars, or Knight of Templar, Order of Knight of Templar, that was prevalent in medieval Europe, with its headquarters either mostly in France, of course, but also Templars are known to be knights that were involved in the medieval crusades, and also in the currently like Middle East. And the name Baphomet practically caused, or was one of the reasons why Knight Templars were accused of sorcery and witchery by French King Philip IV, Philip the Pretty. Officially he was called also the Philip the Fair. I'm not sure whether he was fair or not. And he standed together with papacy at that time in a big trial against the Knight Templar. This happened on the Friday 13th in October in 1307, where many French Templar knights were simultaneously arrested and subjected to torture. What was the role of Baphomet there? Baphomet was supposedly one of the idols that Templars were worshipping, according to the papacy, and also to the King Philip. And it happened that way that the Knight Templar was dissolved, and many of its leaders were tortured. And during the torture of these knights, of course, under these torturing methods, many people confessed that they were idolizing the idol of the goat, the idol of the Baphomet. The history, of course, it's many times written by the victors, so probably the reason why Philip the Fair was trying to accuse Knight Templar was because the Knight Templars had a lot of power at the time, and it was one of the richest, or probably the richest medieval order of the knights at that time of the world, because they got a lot of riches. They were supported by many kingdoms, and to be in the crusades. And Philip IV was in heavy debt, and he needed to put this debt away, so he accused Templars. What were these accusations? There were like 100 charges against the Templars. Mostly these charges included heresy, homosexual relations at the time, and spitting and urinating on the cross, sodomy, at that time, and also worshipping the goat of Baphomet. There are some first mentioning of Baphomet by Raymond de Aglias, or he was a chronicler in the First Crusade, and he reports that the so-called troubadours were using the term Baphomet or Baphomarias. The name Baphomets later appeared also in Occitan poems, so-called Señors per los nostres peccats, by the troubadour Gavaudan. It was late 13th century. There are some theories also that Baphomet comes from the name Mahomet, which is Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad. I don't think that this is the thing, but it is just one of the theories. The reason why so many Crusader Templars or Crusaders or Knight Templars later on confessed due to the torture that they were spitting on the cross, for example, I would say that this might be true, but not because they were devil worshippers, but this was practically a psychological preparation of war. We know that many soldiers also in these times do a lot of technical preparations in case, and psychological preparations in case they become prisoners of war, and sometimes also the torture might happen to the soldiers. And it was known that when Islam warriors at that time imprisoned some Templars, they pushed them to spit on the cross or do some kind of defamation of the Christian symbols. It psychologically prepared the Templars at this situation. So either they were forced to do these things in their mind, they still believed let's say with the Christ teaching. So doesn't matter what they do physically, they were always stayed in their clarity of mind. And yes, probably Templars were militarily prepared also in these practices to probably do these things that were later used against them. Other theory is that while Templars were involved in these crusades, they get into contact with Zoroastrian teachings of the Middle East, and also they practically might have been affected by Gnosticism. In that time, of course, the church defeated Cathars, which was a big Gnostic sect that were also believing in so-called dualism. It means Cathars believed in two opposite deities, good and bad or evil, that are practically in balance, and they create our current world. So these dualistic teachings were at that time really prevalent. Might be that Templars also were involved in these teachings later on. Official accusation of the church is also very interesting. In this accusation, Baphomet or this idol is mentioned for the first time. The accusation was called Acte d'Accusation, or the indictment, and it was published by the court in Rome, and it says that in all the provinces of the Templars, this means the order chapters, they had idols, that is to say heads, some of which had 3 faces. It might mean this Roman god Janus, for example, or we spoke also about the Hecate in my previous videos. Others but one. Sometimes it was a human skull. that in their assemblies and especially in their grand chapters, they worship the idol as a god, as their savior, saying that his head could save them, that it bestowed on the order all its wealth, made the trees flower, and the plants of the earth to sprout forth. Yeah, so probably in this accusation, of course, church wanted to paint them in the worst way, but we know that probably nothing happens within some kind of wind blowing. So probably some parts of the Templars, mostly their inner circle, was involved in the Gnostic teachings. What is interesting that later on the church and French king even fabricated something like statues or figurines of this mysterious goat figure to accuse Templars even more. They created something like false foundings that they said that, oh, we have found this in this specific chapter, we have found this devilish idol. It is true that that they are really worshipping the devil. And some of these prefabricated idols could be even found now in modern history. For example, in the history of in the museum of in the city of Vienna in Austria. You can find some carved or engraved figurines that were found in many supposed Templar locations in the 13th century when the order was investigated. There is also like one mentioning of this in Encyclopedia Americana from 1851 that that these little images are of stone, partly hermaphrodites, having generally two heads or two faces, with a bird, but in other respects female figures, most of them accompanied by serpents, the sun and moon, and other strange emblems. Later on, a famous Orientalist in the city of Vienna, his name was Josef Freiherr von Hammer-Purgstall. It was an Austrian noble. He wrote a book which is quite long in Latin. The name is Mysterium Baphometis Revelatum Seu fratres militiae templi quagnostici et quidem offiani apostasiae idododolie et impuritatis convicti per ipsa Romum monumenta. So it means a discovery of the mystery of Baphomet, by which the Knight Templars, like the Gnostic and Ophites, are convinced of apostasy, of idolatry, and of moral impurity by their own monuments. So quite a long name for a book, I think. So, and in this book, he tries to also later on find out like what is the origin of this name Baphomet, whether it is really like Mahomet or something else. And he comes with a theory. This book was, by the way, written in the year 1818, so it's quite old. He writes that Baphomet signifies or comes from the Greek term Baphometos or Baphometeos. It means baptism of metis, baptism of fire. So also this might probably explain that maybe the Templars, when they were undergoing their military training, they had to maybe bow to the devilish goat figure just to mentally prepare them that if they will be captured, they will be forced to do all of these kind of things, and they still in their mind remain pure. But there is also another theory that maybe something really in the inner circle was not only the preparation for the capture by the warriors of Islam, but that it comes from that there was really some kind of Gnostic baptism, this baptism to the duality. It was practically like enlightening of mind, that they wanted to acquire through not worshipping but meditating about this symbol, to understand their duality, their position in the world, the balance between the mind, the soul, and the body. So maybe for the inner circle of the Templars, that were not only soldiers but they were also educated in theology, they really had this internal doctrine that might have been sometimes used against them. The order was dissolved, the idols were destroyed, or later on few of them remained, like in this museum in the Austria. It's very interesting that the French king Philippe, he did not acquire as much money as he wanted. There are these stories about this famous Templar treasure hidden somewhere. The Templar treasure was taken away maybe by the Templars, or they haven't had nothing, and they had because they have to pay for a lot of fortresses in the Middle East, and stories about their internal wealth was just exaggerated. We don't know. Many theories comes that maybe later on secret orders were created through this money and gold and everything, or the Templar treasure is still hidden somewhere. There are so many books about it, but this is not the topic of our video today. After this mysterious figure of Baphomet, this goat head, and the body of the Androgyn, it later still prevailed in the occult circles. Still, it was considered as some kind of symbol of the demons, devils, and closely related to the black magic. Also this symbol had later on survived its revival, and mostly in the late 19th century. We know that 19th century also historically was a very revolutionary time, so-called the age of Romanticism. People wanted to return back to the roots. There are like new movements that are attacking the late feudal order, and also there are, in that time, like the capitalism, of course, it starts, but it's really practically very hard to the people. First manufacturers are created, so also this there is like counter movement of socialism, and socialism was also probably in France was very popular in that time, mostly in the societies of intellectuals, early occultists, and they take Baphomet as a symbol of a rebellion against the current totalitarian feudal systems and governments at that time. Also, so Baphomet was taken as a something that maybe in their thinking of the occultists or people of the 19th century, they considered Baphomet as an illumination to the better age. They haven't still saw the horrors of the First World War and later on. So they think that Templars might have been right, that there were some internal doctrines that were suppressed by the evil feudal order of French king and also papacy at that time. So they from these times comes this theory that Baphomet practically represents Satan, which of course he has a lot of symbolics related to Satan, but I would say that he is a little bit more complex concept, not only like Satan. There was a very famous occultist at that time. His name was Eliphas Levi, a French occultist, and he wrote a very famous occult book, still very popular until today, and I would like to maybe find time to review it. The book is called Dogme et rituel de la haute magie. Sorry for my French, I'm not very good at it. And it can be translated as Dogma and Rituals of High Magic. The book was written in 1854. The first part was Dogma or Dogma, and then he wrote the second part, Ritual or Ritual. So I think 1854, 1856. And in this book, he comes with a very famous depiction of Baphomet. And I would like to maybe again do small citation from the book where Eliphas Levi tries to explain what does Baphomet represents. So let's look at it. You can watch the picture and think about it with me. The goat on the frontispiece carries the sign of the pentagram. On the forehead, with one point at the top, a symbol of light, his two hands forming the sign of occultism, the one pointing up to the white moon of Chesed. This is Sephirah in Sephirotic 3, comes from Kabbalah. The other pointing down on the black one of Geburah, again the fifth Sephirah of the Sephirotic 3. This sign expresses the perfect harmony of mercy with justice. His one arm is female, the other male, like the ones of the Androgyn of Kunrat, the attributes of which we had to unite with those of our goat, because he is one and the same symbol. The flame of intelligence shining between his horns is the magic light of the universal balance, the image of the soul elevated above matter, as the flame, whilst being tied to matter, shines above it. The beast's head expresses the horror of the sinner, whose materially acting, solely responsible part has to bear the punishment exclusively. The soul is insensitive according to its nature and can only suffer when it materializes. The rod, standing instead of genitals, symbolizes eternal life. The body, covered with scales, the water. The semicircle above it, the atmosphere. The feathers following above, the volatile. Humanity is represented by the two breasts and the androgyn arms of this sphinx of the occult sciences. This is really beautiful text, and I couldn't say it better, I think. Eliphas Levi later on even called these Baphomet in his specific, later very famous word. We know Baphomet also as according to him, as a Goat of Mendes. The Goat of Mendes, of course, is also old term mentioned already by Herodotus, the father of history, we would say. And Herodotus relates to a practice, supposed practice by Mendesians. It was a city in ancient Greece where a female during the ritual copulated with a goat. Yeah, so this is practically interesting case where practically this was probably some kind of mystery that was done by the Mendesians. The goat should have probably be understood as a so-called Priapus, also the god of fertility, and also Pan and Satyr. Whether this is true, I don't know. we do have only mentionings of Herodotus. I think that Eliphas Levi does not want to say that this is like Goat of Mendes. You see that this is also very complex archetype of occult thinking or occult understanding. The Baphomet is a model of or a way how we should probably meditate about ourselves and our position in the world. Indeed, of course, Baphomet has this inner sexuality, this rod that comes from that should represent also the way for the soul above our head to find through meaning. So the goat is the form of materialism, the form of us. The fire, this spirit or this soul is still above us, and we have to connect with it to be balanced in the Sephirotic tree. The form of the goat, later on, of course, the symbol comes in or can be found in, for example, in the devil card of tarot, the famous tarot by Rider-Waite tarot deck. Practically, this comes from the myth, or from the myth of Baphomet. Even Levy's illustration suggests this connection of Baphomet with Satan, which was later on, of course, historically unfortunate, because this famous figure later on become a tool for the Catholic Church and do it as a propaganda against let's say, Satanism. They also fought at that time in the 19th century Masons, because of course in these times Mason orders were coming with were very in opposition to the church. So they practically church came, or Catholic Church came, with the theory that Masons are neo-Templars trying to somehow destroy the Christian church. After, or a little bit later, in the early 20th century, so maybe 50, 70 years after Eliphas Levi came with this idea, or this revival of Baphomet as a Goat of Mendes, another great figure of the occult world was thinking about Baphomet. I mean, Aleister Crowley, in his very famous occult book, or Liber Abba, is mentioning and speaking about Baphomet. It became a very important figure, Baphomet, as such, in the cosmology of Thelema. So this was Crowley's order. He says about him in his fourth book of Liber Abba, and he calls him like divine Androgyn, or so-called hieroglyph of arcane perfection. So again, this is a movement from only the understanding of the Baphomet or Goat of Mendes as this satanic figure of opposition to the oppression, or he even goes further, and he comes with another interesting thought, and I will maybe just take it from the book, because again it's very interesting. So in his fourth book of Liber Abba, he writes about this: the devil does not exist. It is a false name, invented by black brothers to imply a unity in their ignorant muddle of dispersions. A devil who had unity would be a god. The devil is historically the god of any people that one personally dislikes. So everyone who we don't like, we can say that you are worshipping devils because I hate your hate your religion, or I don't agree with the way what you think about. This is maybe what Catholic Church is doing, currently, or others. I don't want to only say about them. Maybe some of them, of course, are understanding. I don't want to say, but this is like a common thought, maybe, about the left-hand path, that we are just devil worshippers, while we try to maybe connect with our or we want to achieve our arcane perfection. And he continues: this serpent, Satan, is not the enemy of man, but he who made gods of our race. Knowing good and evil, he bade know thyself, and taught initiation. He is the devil of the book of Thoth, and his emblem is Baphomet, the Androgyn who is the hieroglyph of arcane perfection. He is therefore life and love, but moreover his letter is Ein, the eye, so that he is light, and his zodiacal image is Capricornus, that leaping goat whose attribute is liberty. As you see, I also take the symbol of Baphomet I have it in great regard. And sometimes when I don't want to invoke a specific spirit, I invoke in myself the internal spirit or fire of Baphomet. There was an interesting question on my Facebook page just a few days ago about who is Baphomet, whether he is some kind of combination of the gods or so. And my reply was, I don't think so. That the question was, if he is the combination of the gods or spirits, who are we actually worshipping? And I think that he represents the humanity, our wish to really find ourselves, our internal self, our absolute betterment through this flame, through this Kundalini awakening. So our eye, as Mr. Crowley says, could really see. So who are we worshipping, or who are we invoking if we are working with Baphomet? Us, ourselves. We are worshipping our true self. And when I worked with Baphomet, I sometimes use the mantra, and it's Ba-Fo-Me. I reply it in my mind. Sometimes I say it. It's very, when you say it many times, when you are in this meditation session, you get into easy trance after it. And you really can see and feel this black flame inside you if you do it truly and with good intention. I sometimes meditate on the Eliphas Levi's picture or depiction, or sometimes I just look my own idol, my own Templar idol, in the eye. And when you do it in the middle of the night, where everywhere is just silence, these sessions to looking on him is practically look into myself, and sometimes I find answers. So try to sometimes invoke yourself. You can find richness in you, even that you maybe not know about it. But that's why I really firmly believe that everyone is very attractive and deeply rich person. We just have to find it in ourselves. Friends, there are so many things that we can speak about Baphomet. We could speak about him and discuss about this metaphysical knowledge or ideas for a long time, and I would be happy to do that with you if you comment on my YouTube page again, and we can have nice discussion. I wish you a great day and see you later on another video. Take care.